Welcome for another edition of Banter. I'm old.
And I'm bald.
Sweet. I'm excited for this episode. We talked about, back up, Bill. So we talked about what the episode is going to be. We're going to talk about shoes, all things shoes, but we were supposed to have a guest. I'm not sure what to say about this. Kind of disappointed.
I'm going to go ahead and blame our producer, our publicist, basically our whole staff is to blame for this one.
Jack, that's us. We're all of those things.
Okay, then I'm only going to blame half the staff.
Okay. So before we move too far forward, because I don't want to dwell on that. We're just going to let it be. We need to move into the segment that we go with every week, the okay, moving on piece. So it's your turn, my friend. Let me hold on a second. We got to make sure that I get the clock on this one because I think I got really close last week
to close
being over time. So really, really close. So where's my clock here on the phone? All right, sir, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, this isn't going to be one of the more aggressive rants, but this is just something that needs to be pointed out. I can't even necessarily say that I'm against it. I just think it's a problem. So, in the United States, breakfast, in my opinion, and I've had this conversation with people before, is just another dessert. Straight up. If you look at what American people eat for breakfast every day, donuts, coffee cake, cereal, which 90% of the cereal you're eating is so sugary, you might as well just eat a donut. Anyone who thinks that they're getting all their vitamins and minerals or whatever from a box of Fruit Loops is just, maybe you are, but you're getting a lot of other stuff too. So, and then, look at pancakes, waffles. Look, we all drown those things in syrup anyway. Then you put chocolate chips in them and all this stuff. So understanding like the science of why we crave sweet things in the morning, it's because, you sleep 8 hours, right? And your body is craving some kind of energy. And the quickest form of energy is carbs. So you do have typically a craving for something sweet. I get that. But I am almost positive that other countries do not have the same problem with as bad of sugary breakfast choices as we do. I had this problem when I lived on campus and I was eating in the cafeteria every day. And I was just like, this is just dessert straight up. It's like a dessert buffet kind of. The only difference is if you add like sausage and like bacon to it, then it's a dessert buffet plus a lot of fat and oils. So it's like, I'm not saying I'm against this because look, I love donuts as much as the next guy. And I love pancakes and waffles and syrup as much as the next guy. Maybe even more. I'll eat them out of the trash. I don't even care. The main thing is, it's just a problem. Like there's just like a big, like it's just such a big lie that like breakfast is like the most important meal. If you eat breakfast, you're already doing right. But most of the time, it's either people here either don't eat breakfast and just like roll with coffee, which I don't know all the bad things about it. It's got to be not great for your heart over the course of your whole life. But it's either that or you pound like, some Lucky Charms and you're like, all right, I feel great. Which, man, just imagine how much more productive we would be if like our breakfast was legit. Like people were eating, I can't even think of a good example. Like eggs, I guess, positive. Just like eggs, some whole grain toast, and some steel cut oats. If we ate breakfast like that every day, where would we be as a society? Would we have flying cars, perhaps? Probably not. But something along those lines, maybe. All I know is that is a problem, and I don't know how it started, and more research to be done. Our international audience, please chime in the comments and let me know if this is a typical breakfast where you are, but I feel like it's an American problem exclusively. Done.
Okay. Moving on. I really wish I like this idea. So you got about 4 minutes,
Oh,
3
good.
minutes and 56 seconds. That's pretty good.
Perfect.
There's times when I want to react, but and want to contribute, but that's not the point. This allows you to vent a little bit about. I love breakfast, by the way, but we're not going to go there.
I said my piece.
You did. All right. So one of the things that I'm going to touch on before we get moving too far into the topic of the week is for our super fans that have actually paid attention, watched, I try to wear a different novelty t-shirt each week. Starting to run low on these novelty t-shirts. I've got about 3 or 4 more, and then I'm going to have to either buy more or someone could send me a cool novelty t-shirt. That'd be awesome.
Or you're going to have to come up with a new thing.
No, that's my thing. So I'll have that. And then since this week is about shoes, I've got Newton shoes that we're going to discuss a little bit of that probably too. And so for me, I guess that's how we'll kickstart, right? So I used to work for a running shoe store out in Colorado for a number of years, and had some pretty interesting stories and things come up. But I think for me, we're not just gonna talk about running store or running shoes. We're gonna kind of expand upon the whole world of why and all that. I think the first topic, one of the first things we talked about was the sole of a shoe. Man, I looked this up. I cannot. The only thing I can see is that the sole has to do more with the sole of the foot. So the foot, the bottom of the foot is called the sole. And I think from what I gather is when you show the bottoms of your feet in certain cultures to the sky or to other people, it's showing your soul, right? So like your inner soul to
okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Why is it spelled different? Why is it spelled
I don't
different?
know. I don't know. That's a wonderful question. It was really hard to find, man. I could not find, I try to research on each of our episodes about what our topics are. I couldn't find anything that told me specifically why the sole of the foot and the sole of the shoe were specifically named that. It's really hard, man. So if somebody knows, you can come point that out to us, because our fans seem to do a really good job of pointing out some things for us, and I appreciate that. So keep doing it.
Yeah, for all the cobblers watching at home, just go ahead and drop that in the comments.
Yeah, I'm sure there's got to be hundreds of that are around this area.
It's not a super popular profession these days, but if no one cobbles, then I don't know what would happen. But I feel like it's important.
Speaking of the cobbler thing, have you ever seen the Adam Sandler cobbler? The really
It's a bad movie.
Ridiculous movie. And I know we go back to our whole movie thing that we talked. That was episode 1, not 1.5, but episode 1. That's hidden features stuff. But that was interesting, where he would put on shoes and then he basically became the person.
If you put on shoes, I think that he looked like the person whose shoes the shoes belonged to.
So it was like Quantum Leap.
Yeah, to everyone else he looked like that, but to him he was still like himself, and then he would look in the mirror and do like the Freaky Friday thing, like.
So it was like Quantum Leap from like the 80s. I'm old.
Yeah.
I'm old. So
it's just like that.
It's a great show. They need to redo that show. So the guy would get like transported. It was like some weird futuristic thing where you get transported into somebody else's body. So when he would look into a mirror, he would look like that person, but he was himself. And then he would like reenact certain events in history and try to do them better so that it would change it's a good show.
So we'll take a quick sidebar here. I have a quick digression on that. And it's slightly related to Adam Sandler's The Cobbler, so we'll just go with it. If you were to teleport, do you think that you would be the same person when you showed up in the next place? Would you have the same consciousness? These are some concerns I've heard of people who are like, when teleportation is invented in like a mainstream way, they don't want to be the first person in. Because what if you go in, it like dematerializes you, and then you come out the other side, all the cells are the same, but your consciousness is not the same.
So I know you love movies. I love movies. Have you seen the movie The Fly?
Nope.
Watch that movie. It will change your perspective on teleportation. Because essentially the movie, The Fly, is about how to reanimate something in a different space. So the guy invents a teleportation thing. So it takes your molecules apart and then reforms them back in a space. But what happens in the movie is essentially a fly gets into the teleportation place at the same time that he's trying to teleport, and the molecules all cross over and he turns into a fly.
Oh God.
That's the idea. Is essentially that he mixes with a fly and it turns it in. So like
There's another problem with teleportation.
That's another thing. What if like a bug or a virus or something like you connect and
Yeah, like, okay, there's bacteria all over the outside of you, right? So if you go into a chamber to get teleported, how does the teleportation thing know not to teleport you with all that bacteria that's outside? I mean, there's some inside you, but would there be like?
Yeah, but I think that's an easy solve. It could be like a vacuum. It would have to be in a vacuum, right? Where it's literally just you. But I don't know.
You in a suit that's impervious to the vacuum, right?
I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, if I got to get dressed up in a spacesuit, I don't know if it's hardly worth it.
So I hate to do another okay moving on segment, but let's get to shoes. We got a lot to talk about here. So our guest was supposed to talk about, give us a really good female perspective on shoes, which I thought was going to be fantastic because sometimes men know some things about shoes, but there's a lot of things that we don't know. You know, there's a lot of other shoe options out there. There's a lot of other thinking around shoes. So my wife, she's amazing. She's given me multiple ideas on this show. But I asked her, I said, what is it with women and fashion shoes? You know, heels, clogs, different types of sandals, things like that. She gave me a really interesting perspective that I hadn't quite thought about before, even working in the store.
Boots are crazy.
What's that?
Boots are a crazy thing.
Yeah, they are crazy. Especially like Uggs and stuff. That stuff doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't.
Not really. It's not super functional, and people wearing Uggs in the summertime, and that doesn't make sense. But anyway, so what she said to me was this, and I want to hear your perspective on this. She said, women oftentimes struggle with sizes with clothing, right? So shifting up and down, just through various points in their life. And it's very rare to have shoe size change dramatically throughout your life. So it's the one thing that's a constant that gives them joy that, hey, I found a cute shoe that I can wear that is in the same, because the shoe sizes don't fluctuate dramatically, right? And so she's like, okay, you can have a woman that's in a size 8 and most things she wears, and then all of a sudden there's a dress that she really likes that's in a size 12 that fits her the same as a size 8. And so that's a 4 size difference, and that can be really dramatic. And so then like getting in a shoe, if you're a size 7, you're a size 7 most of the time. And so she's like, it makes them feel good. So that's why they invest in just shopping and finding a lot of different shoe options. So I was like, oh, I found that pretty interesting psychologically to think about. But what do you think?
I've never heard that perspective. Although
Neither had I.
I mean, hearing it, you're like, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. And like, let's be honest with ourselves. And obviously we're making big sweeping statements here. We're not experts on anything. I'll say it 1,000 times. When men go shoe shopping, like I'm not a sneakerhead. I know some sneakerheads that collect like Jordans and stuff like that who are like really into it, you know? And they know the differences between this, and this. And I'm like, when I go, I'm like, I need a dress shoe and it has to be black. That's all I will know going in and be like, these work. And then I'll go. The other thing is, feel like if men gain weight over the course of their life, it's like, meh, just get a bigger size. Where like, seems like it's more of a dramatic experience for women in terms of like the way that they're judged based on that kind of thing. Men can gain weight their whole lives, and people are just like, yeah, that's about right. Dad bod.
I'm working on mine right now. It's coming in nicely.
You got a lot more work to do.
Okay, I'll keep working on that.
Yeah, keep crushing.
More Haribo gummy bears for me.
M&Ms for breakfast and gummy bears for lunch.
And I'm not even, there's no exaggeration. You were in the office. You probably saw me. That was my lunch today. Bo is probably going to watch this later, or maybe she won't, but someone's going to watch it and be like, yeah, probably should have more than gummy bears, but I had a full size package. So I figure that's better than the sample size.
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of pure calories, I don't see a problem.
I am hitting the calories up very nicely in terms of that. Yeah. And then we had walking tacos tonight. So I feel well fed.
So here's a little fitness tip for you. You could work out without even thinking about it. Might I recommend some Skechers shape ups?
Oh gosh. Okay. All right. You had to do it. You had to do it. All right. I'm gonna tell you. So I've when I worked for the running store out in Colorado, oftentimes reps for each of the different shoe companies. So Nike, Saucony, the shape up shoes as well. The reps would give us shoes to have. So they're like promo shoes we could test out and then tell customers what we thought and that kind of thing. So at the time from 2010 to 2013, I had a whole closet full of, ridiculous shoes, but one of them happened to be shape up running shoes. So that Skechers was starting to get more into the running mode, right? They had signed Meb, Kofletsky, they signed Kara Goucher, some others, but they had just started going. So I got some of the shape ups and wow, I wore them one time and it was, won't do that again.
Okay, so explain to me what you were feeling the day you wore them.
Well, first of all, I was skeptical to begin with because it seems very like mom, like I'm going to try and work out without actually working out kind of thing. A soccer mom kind of thing. I don't know, but it was weird. So I put them on and I went they were meant to be running and they were different than the regular shape ups. They had like a little, there was a little cutout. So it was almost like ironically, it's kind of like what you're seeing Nike do right now, right? With the, what are those? The ones that like, they broke the 2-hour marathon in like the
Vaporflies, yeah.
Yeah, the Vaporflies. It was kind of like that. They had a little bit of space in there, but there was a plate in it. But the way that it rocked you from heel to toe and like it seemed really unstable. So it was like the Vaporfly combined with Hoka's, right? With the big like midsole to them. And so I just felt like super unstable in them. Uphills were terrible. Like you just felt like you were doing way more work than you needed to do to run uphill. It was strange.
Well, yeah, you were unstable because they were exposing your weaknesses. That's the point of the shoe,
yeah.
I think. I mean,
I have a lot of weaknesses, so
there's some great engineers working on these things, right? So, I mean, they put people in these shoes, and I think the reason it didn't take off is because people are like, oh, these feel weird. That's the point. You're supposed to shape up, not feel comfortable.
Touche. Let's talk about that a little bit. So one of the things that most people don't quite realize is, and I think especially within sport shoes, is within sport shoes, those companies design the shoe around specific elite athletes. So they shape them the last of the shoe around their foot. They supply the proper cushion based around what that elite athlete likes. The color schemes oftentimes will come from whatever club that athlete or team, like if they're on a baseball team, if they're for the Yankees or whatever, they'll design that specific shoe, like the Kobe's or whatever else. They'll put these shoes on and they'll be designed around that person's foot, and then they'll market them to millions of other people, and they'll wear their shoes. They're like, this shoe is great, this is fantastic. No, it's not. You think it's great because back in the day, again, I'm gonna do the old thing, because Ken Griffey Jr. had these shoes, and I had Griffey's back in the day. Because Ken Griffey Jr. had these shoes, you think they're great because he had them and he's such a great athlete. So you're like, oh, it feels great on my foot. And so you kind of like you tell yourself that it's great.
Well, look, there's no doubt that plays a part. I mean, is it made for
all the part? It's making money.
Is it made for your foot? No chance. But did I feel like an absolute superhero when I was wearing my Derrick Rose 2s?
Okay, did you feel versus were you?
I felt mentally like that, right? Which is all that matters, right? Like, I'm at the free throw line, okay? I'm going to start over. It matters whether I have the skill to make the free throw, yes. But a big influence on that is the confidence to make the shot. If I walk up there and I'm not confident, I'm going to miss free throws.
Look good, feel good, play good.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got
you.
Yeah, okay. That sounds like a self-confidence thing you got to work on there.
Hey, if a pair of shoes can make me feel good, why not?
And so then I think you're right. Like, I'll go with you on part of that, because that's essentially what we were just talking about in terms of women and the way they choose shoes or shop for shoes is it makes them feel good, because all these other products out there are making them not necessarily feel good or not feel consistent with what's going on in their lives. And so you could say the same thing about men as well, is because, Derrick Rose wore these shoes, you're going to go, okay, maybe I'm not Derrick Rose, but it worked for him. So maybe 1% or even 0.5% of that will feed to me. Right. So that makes complete sense.
And let's not pretend that there's a huge difference here between women being into shoes and guys being into shoes. Guys are into basketball shoes and stuff like that in a more general way, and women are into, like, fill in the blank. But
this is why we need a woman to be.
We were planning on having a woman guest. That would have been great. But I'm sure they're into, other types of shoes. But it's no different. Why is it different that a woman goes to DSW and she buys 2 pairs of shoes than a guy who spends 3 hours scrolling through shoes and he's just like, oh, these are sick. It's the same thing. And I think that we're kind of just like, we're really splitting hairs when it's just like, yeah, women in their shoes. Well, they're probably like, yeah, but all men's shoes are the same basketball shoe with different colored aglet.
You're not wrong.
That almost sounds more ridiculous to me.
Oh, absolutely. There's a new Netflix movie out it's called like Sneakerheads or something, where they talk through that, and the trailer is a guy. They made it sound like it's like a porn trailer, like he's watching porn, but he's actually just like
looking at shoes.
More shoes. And so he's like, what? Every guy does it. And he just goes on this whole thing. And the wife comes in, or the girlfriend comes in, and she's like, this is ridiculous. You can't be spending money on this. Like, you're it goes this whole thing. So I want to watch it. It looks like it's pretty decent, but no, but beyond that, I think you're on the right track with that. I think that makes sense. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about briefly was like shoes as a whole. So I've got a couple of stories beyond this, but like, where did they start from? Like, what was the purpose? And then where has it built to up to this point? Right. So it started just to protect your feet, period. Right. Just something on the bottoms of your feet so you didn't get jabbed by a rock or a stick or whatever it happens to be.
Scorpion.
A scorpion, yeah, or a rattlesnake. It's a big deal. But and then it's evolved into being marketed more and more and more for traction or for jumping higher, for impact, for cushioning, and then beyond that, it's gone into fashion. It looks pretty, it looks good, it shows off your feet, whatever it happens to be.
Well, and don't forget warmth, right?
Warmth. That's obviously that's another. I think but that's been a thing for ever since kind of the beginning, right?
So wouldn't that be? I mean, I don't know the true origin, but you would think obviously protect your feet from sharp things on the ground. But when humans first evolved, they were running around barefoot. You wouldn't really need shoes until you're moving into colder climates anyway. Then you lose a foot if you don't have it.
Well, yes and no. I mean, like, I think so. I think we talked about this one point. There was a show, a documentary show that had it was gosh, what was it? It was about like superhumans, right? It was
Stanley Superhumans.
Stanley Superhumans, and he talked about like people that could resist, extreme temperatures or high endurance athletes or whatever it is. And do we know that 5,000, 10,000 years ago, people weren't walking around without shoes to cover their feet because they had adapted to that, and now we've adapted the other way. But I mean, physiologically, the reason to cover up those extremities is when you get super, super cold, all the blood's going to run to your heart and in your major organs, and it's going to go away from your hands and your feet. And so,
well, look, I'm sure someone knows the answer to that. It's just neither of us.
Leave it in the comments.
So here's an interesting fact. Shoelaces, no one can really trace the start of shoelaces, but some guy in England claimed ownership of the idea in 1790. And he claimed himself as the inventor of shoelaces. But they existed for a long time before that. So I guess it just took someone submitting a patent.
So, all right, let's look at that just briefly. I would imagine that it's been way before that. Way before that. Like moccasins. Sure. I'm pretty confident there were moccasins from Native Americans, and I think even way before that, wearing boots that had laces of some sort, because you'd have to have something, right?
Oh yeah, completely. It was just some English guy who just took credit for it.
Isn't that crazy? English guys taking credit for everything.
Seriously. Every idiom in the book, English. Shoelaces, English.
True. That was our, gosh, you're right. That was when we did our idioms episode. A lot of the stuff was English. That's ridiculous, man. We got to change some history here. But back onto like
You mean some their story?
Ooh, you used my word. Good job. I like it. Their story, not history. That's a whole different episode. We could go into that. Not his story, but their story.
Ooh, or should we say our story?
Oh, even better.
That sounds better.
Even better. I love it. I love it.
More united just saying it out loud.
I love it. So now I've decided at some point down the road, that's going to be an episode in and of itself.
All right. The Our Story episode. I'm into it.
So I'm going to go into something that's a little bit different, but kind of on the same route that we're talking about. No shoes. So we've had this conversation a couple of times in the last week. About 15 years ago or so, 10 to 15 years ago, this trend came about within the shoe industry for shoes that were closer to barefoot. Right? So kind of no shoes. I have a great story regarding that from when I worked at a running store. So probably one of my favorite stories ever. Hopefully everybody else gets a kick out of this. So I had a really close friend, and I'll give a shout out to him. I doubt he'll watch this, but you know what? I'm going to give a shout out anyway. His name is Josh Wright, lives out in Colorado, really good friend of mine. We worked together. We were both managing a running store along with Joel Hamilton, another guy that's still managing the store out there. And we had the Vibram Five Fingers. You remember those?
Oh yeah, they're basically just socks. Basically socks with toe holes.
Basically, a little rubber outsole, but not much. So those became really popular in 2010, 2011, that time frame, because people were trying to get back to natural. The book Born to Run came out, and everybody's like, "Oh, we should run barefoot all the time," and because this tribe in Mexico was doing it, and Africa and everything. So we had a guy come in one time. I'll never forget this. The guy comes in and he goes, "I'm really interested in some barefoot running shoes." And my buddy Josh goes, "Interesting. Okay. Take off your shoes." So the guy takes his shoes off. He said, "Okay, I want you to run like down to the end of the store and back." The guy runs to the end of the store and back. He goes, "Okay, looks pretty good. That'll be $100, please." The guy's like, "What?" He said, "You wanted some barefoot shoes." So I was like, that was probably one of the greatest in-person interactions with somebody that wanted a barefoot shoe that I've ever had. But that's essentially what it is, right?
And that guy said, "All right, that's it. I'm going to Walmart."
I'm going to Walmart. So it was just funny that industry did such a good, I'm going to be honest, they did such a good job of marketing towards shoes that weren't shoes, and they were selling them for $100 to $150. That's genius.
Yeah, it's genius. Clearly it would have been more genius if they could gradually work their way into a sustainable business model instead of barefoot running, boom, and then no one wears the shoes ever again.
Yeah, but so how this turned into that. So some companies were able to really do a good job of that, where they were creating shoes that still provided cushion. But this is a little informational piece for you. So most running or athletic shoes have a higher heel tilt than they do a forefoot tilt, right? Because most people, when they walk or when they move around, and a lot of people when they run, they'll strike with their heel first, right? So the shoe provides more cushion in the back edge than it does in the front edge. So what those companies were doing then is they were changing that to more of a flat-based shoe, as if you were barefoot. But they were still providing cushion evenly across the shoe. So it flattened things out. So most running shoes had a 12 millimeter drop from heel to toe. And those companies, and actually most companies, Saucony did this, Brooks did it, Asics, they started to drop their heel counter down to 8 millimeters, 6 millimeters.
4 millimeters, yeah.
4 millimeters, right? So they dropped them down. But then there were some companies that all their shoes were zero. Altra is a company, Altra, Altra.
Newton, right?
And Newton, another option that did that. So Altra did it where it was completely flat. All their shoes are zero drop, completely flat. And they had a wider base in the toe box so your toes could spread out like they would be naturally. So Altra did that. Newton did it where it was kind of flat. They had these little like these little pads in the front of the shoe that matched up with your metatarsals. So when you struck the ground on your forefoot, the idea was to strike on your forefoot as opposed to striking your heel because you had a bigger braking force and the whole thing. So certain companies like Newton and Ultra did a fantastic job of like catering to that and still continue to do a good job. But then like Vibram Five Fingers like faded out.
Yeah, that went quick. I mean, probably because people were like wearing them to the store and stuff like that and getting stress fractures or whatever. And also, if you ever wore a pair of Vibram Five Fingers just to walk around, what were you doing? What were you thinking? I mean, look, it seems like the casual like jogger dad thing to do. So, which has never been the cutting edge of fashion, surely. But come on, that one's just bad.
Oh, I agree. I'm not going to tell you what to wear. It's not my job. We're not experts. We're
At anything.
At anything. That's why we talk about everything. So I think one of the things to keep in mind, though, when you're looking at stuff like that, is that yes, when, you know, thousands of years ago, we started not wearing much for shoes. And now we wear shoes that have lots of stuff in them, cushion, support, things like that. We're not going to just all of a sudden evolve back from wearing shoes for all these generations now to where we were before. So it's a lot more complicated than people make it seem. Like, hey, I'm gonna go barefoot all the time, and all of a sudden I'm gonna be this great runner. I'm gonna have less injuries. I'm gonna have all these. Yeah, it's not realistic.
So here's a question that we can both come up with our own fake, maybe true answers to. Why are high heels a thing? Why did they become a thing? Why are they still a thing? I'll go first. So, and I'll basically just talk about why they confuse me so much. So when you're wearing a high heel, like your calf is kind of like contracted, right? That's a thing. So, I mean, I don't think it was a women's
plantar flex. Plantar
Yeah.
flex. Yes.
There you go. Expert words. I think it started out as a men's thing, if I'm not mistaken, when men wore like high socks in like colonial times and stuff, and they need to make their calves look jacked. Like those shoes kind of had a heel, if I'm not mistaken. So that could not have started with women because women never showed anything above their ankles. So what purpose would it have? I don't get why it would be fancy. It's not functional, you know? And like, it doesn't seem like it would be something that would be able to be like mass produced before like modern times.
I don't have an answer to that. That's a fine question. I should have asked my wife that.
I totally made that answer up, but it sounds like it could hold some water.
So you didn't actually research to see that it was
No, not at all. I totally made that up, and I feel like it's got some potential. I could definitely find something on the internet that makes me sound right.
So my guess is it has something to do with height. So I don't know if that's I don't know if it has to do with women matching up to men's height. It could be the men's thing. It could be the women matching up to men's height. I don't know. But
it could be like a gene thing too. Like if a woman looked taller, then like stronger genes or something. So like it could have been like a role in courtship to like look taller. I don't know.
That's a really good one. Again, we're gonna have to research this. Maybe we'll come back on it in another episode so we can tie it together.
So, and then moving to today, I even more don't understand why heels are still a thing. I have scarcely met a woman who said that she loves wearing heels.
I know. That makes no sense either.
Yeah, like it seems like there's broad enough support for just not wearing heels. And it's not like it's a bunch of like old-fashioned women who love wearing heels. Because once you're like 60 or 65, let's be honest, you're not seeing a lot of 65-year-old women walking around in stilettos or anything like that.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite places to watch women in heels, because I do that, it's a regular weekend thing,
Right.
is at a sporting event where the women have to attend a banquet and they wear heels. So athletes who normally just never wear heels, and then watching them walk in heels is entertaining. It's entertaining. Watching them go up stage, just not used to wearing them. It's the same thing with like, it would be the men's version would be like, well, we'll use me. I've said it on multiple occasions. I said it in my last job interview. I hate wearing a suit. I do not enjoy it in any way or fashion. Fashion, it's good. It works.
Oh, maybe we do know about fashion.
No. So I feel really uncomfortable. I feel like I'm being choked by what I'm wearing and all that kind of stuff, and I don't feel comfortable moving around. Maybe it's the same thing. Is they're like, hey, I have to wear this. I don't feel comfortable doing it, but it's proper.
Look, yeah, that's true. It really is. And obviously there's a double standard for everything, right? Like the same way women's dress clothes aren't the same as men's dress clothes. It's just not the same. It's evolved over time, and I think that we've also evolved the standard of like women have to they don't have to wear heels all. I'm sure there was a time. I mean, you were alive for most of time. Like, what was it like then?
Oh, great. Yeah, most of the time it was I got nothing. That
Like I
was
remember all of like my grade school teachers wearing heels because you could hear them like clip clopping down the hallway.
I have a coworker who shall remain nameless, who was supposed to be on this show tonight, who sometimes will dress up nicely for other folks that we will entertain on our campus, and you can hear her clickety clock down the hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Childhood memory sound right there. Like you hear someone clip clopping down the hallway and you're just like,
your teacher.
Oh God, am I late for class right now? So I don't know why heels are still a thing. I feel like in the near future, the next 20, 30, 40 years, I think they might end up being a thing of the past.
I think so too. I think
then they might just be a thing that pop up in like retro music videos in the future, Like, and also funny you should say, all these world-class athletes show up to a banquet in high heels and they're like falling all over the place. And then you look at Beyonce and she can just rock out a full dance number wearing heels. Like, I wonder what she could do on the football field, She's probably got pretty good lateral movement if her ankles are that strong.
She's got long limbs too. Holy cow. Absolutely.
I wonder.
Beyonce on the football field. Great vision.
That's a Netflix short waiting to happen.
Wow. I'm sure Jay-Z's going to start after watching this show. Jay-Z's going to now start a women's football league, which I would absolutely watch. I think that'd be awesome. Yeah. Wow, we've digressed. Holy cow. We've gone down.
We're close. We're close here.
Matching up.
Yeah, tracks.
Well, I think we could really go a lot further with this in terms of shoes. I think we could really, it's such a broad topic.
It really is, and we really solved nothing. But that's our banter. It certainly was banter.
For sure. Well, I think next week we'll have to discuss what our next topic will be, but hopefully either next week or the week after, we will have a good guest. We have someone in mind for a Star Wars episode. That
Should we make there an incentive for the Star Wars episode? Like, you know, once our channel, like once all of our videos combined reach a certain number of views, should we do that?
Sure. What do you want to go with?
Geez, I almost said 1,000, but that sounds like a lot, and we would wait a long time to do Star Wars. Maybe when we get to 200, does that sound like a lot? What do you think?
200?
200 total views on all of our videos.
Let's do it.
Then we'll do a Star Wars episode.
I like it. We have a guest in mind. We have a good concept in mind. Jack and I, Mr. Bald over here, we have spent many hours talking about Star Wars. We have seen every variation of Star Wars, so it could be a really great conversation. So,
And I watch a lot of Star Wars theory on top of it.
no doubt.
No doubt.
No doubt. All right. Cool. Thank you, everybody, for showing up for the show. We now, one of the last announcements that we're going to leave forward is Mr. Bald over there has created something for us and our fans.
We are now officially on Instagram. So if you guys are looking, the Instagram is banter_old_and_bald. Check us out. Hopefully we'll be doing posts in the future. When we post episodes, we'll do hints about what our next topics will be. We'll take suggestions and read comments. And look, if we hit it big enough, giveaways, possibly you, investors. There's a world of opportunity here, people.
Yes.
Fan art, God, just endless possibilities.
We do need to give a quick shout out to people following our page on YouTube and now on Instagram. Our pictures that you see posted are from Keandre Henderson, who has really developed some amazing artwork for a lot of different publications out there. And he's going to be potentially working on something here even bigger for us in terms of a splash page. And but he's doing a great job on that front. We're looking for possibly a musical intro to our show. So anybody that has any musical interests, we'd be happy to have you be our intro.
I may be so bold as to say that DD Graphics is officially our chairman of artistic marketing.
Absolutely.
If you are interested in a similarly meaningless title, let us know what you can do. And we might have a title for you too.
We will promote you like no other. Promise.
Upward mobility is endless.
No doubt.
No doubt.
Thank you. This has been Banter. I'm Old.
And I'm Bald.
See you next week.